If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. We have battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content every week. Thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by. This video is going over my Lines of the Emperor RTT list for the April 19th RTT Sackville Slugfest 8, and this is a 2000 point RTT. I was deciding between this list and my Shield Host RTT list. After playing more games, I think I am going to try Lines of the Emperor list for the RTT. We will take a look at the list, then a breakdown of how the Lines of the Emperor rules benefit these units. Here is my Lines of the Emperor list. I've named this one the Lions of War. Comes to 2,000 points. Our Warlord is Trajann Wardens. For other characters, we have 2 Shield Captains in Allarus. One has the Ad Monte Mortis enhancement with the Castellan Axe. The other has the Superior Creation enhancement with a Guardian Spear. For a battle line, we do have 3 units of Custodian Guard. 2 of the units have 2 Guardian Spears and 2 Sentinel Blades, while the last unit has 4 Guardian Spears. We do have 2 units of 2 Allarus Terminators to join with our Shield Captains. A unit of 5 Wardens with the Spears and Vexilla, they will be joining Trajann. 2 Vertus Praetors with the Hurricane Bolters, a unit of 4 Prosecutors, and 2 units of 4 Witchseekers. For our allied unit, we do have Inquisitor Draxus to join up with one of those Custodian Guard units. I have made some tweaks to this list since I've written this video. I'll throw that list at the end of the video and just show you some of the changes I've made to this list. Let's take a look at the Lines of the Emperor detachment rules. We still have access to the Adeptus Custodes army rule, where as long as your unit has the Martial Kata ability, you can either have sustained hits 1 or lethal hits on your melee weapons in the fight phase. The Lines of the Emperor detachment rule is against all odds, where each time an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army makes an attack, excluding vehicles, if there's no other friendly units within 6 inches, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. Adding 1 to the wound roll is very powerful with the Custodes. The 6 stratagems we do have access to: Defiant to the Last for 1 CP. This will give our non-character models a 4+ fight on death, and character models in the unit a 2+ fight on death. Next up is Gilded Champion. Any phase just after Adeptus Custodes character has used a once per battle ability that is on their datasheet. For 1 CP, you can use that ability again, but not in the same phase. We can only use this on each of our characters once, but it allows us to use our once per game abilities twice per game. This has to be used when we use that ability though. We can't use the ability and then later on the game spend 1 CP to do it again. Maneuver and Fire for 1 CP. This is a great stratagem, a fallback, shoot and charge, and shooting in this detachment is much stronger. Being able to fall back and shoot and then charge makes a big difference. Peerless Warrior for 1 CP. This will give all of our melee weapons in the unit the precision ability, so this allows us to nuke characters into the ground if we really need to. I have used this a few times in my games, and it really does make sure the character dies when you need a character to die. Next is Swift as an Eagle for 1 CP in your opponent's shooting phase. Just after an opponent's unit has shot one of our Custodes units, we can make a D6 normal move. This is a stratagem that rewards unit placement. You don't always want to be counting on a 5 or a 6 on a roll. You want to set it up so even a low roll will make a big difference when moving the unit. Finally, the last stratagem, and one of the more fun and unique stratagems in this detachment: Unleash the Lions. For 1 CP in your command phase, 1 Allarus Custodians unit or 1 Aquilon Custodian unit, and that is our Forge World Terminators. That unit can split into separate units, each containing 1 model, and these new units have a starting strength of 1. A great late game stratagem to break up units to be able to get some more secondary points when we start really running out of units at the end of the game. Let's move on to the unit breakdown, and we'll start with Trajann Wardens and his 5 Wardens. So Trajann Wardens, Trey as we like to call him on the channel, his Moment Shackle ability has to be used at the start of the fight phase, giving Trajann either a 2+ invulnerable or 12 attacks for that phase. If he is low on wounds, we could use this and the Fight on Death stratagem to make sure he gets his 12 attacks off. Or if he is charged with his full wounds or close to his full wounds against a big hard hitting but low amount of attacks, we could use that 2+ invulnerable save, use Gilded Champions to get 2 uses of Moment Shackle, then in our turn, use our 1 CP, fall back, shoot and charge stratagem, fall back and then charge back in, use Moment Shackle once again, but this time we are going to use the 12 attacks to do as much damage as we can. To be honest, I'm not sure if we do need Wardens in this detachment. I could very well be wrong though. We are still in the first few weeks. It could be me reaching to have a no Wardens infantry list. We 100% do need them when we play this detachment like the Shield Host or Talons detachment. This detachment is the hardest to play to its strengths. 3 Blade Champion Wardens units seems to work better in the Shield Host with Draxus and some Guard to sticky objectives with some other utility units in the list. This detachment rewards movement above all else. Our movement phase will be much longer and thought out than any of our other detachments. The Wardens do add some toughness to the list and some potential mortal wounds protection with that 1 phase of 4+ feel no pain. Trajann in a Wardens unit gives the unit a beat stick to cleave heads off. It does not have the same shooting and melee potential of a Custodian Guard unit with their reroll 1s or their reroll the entire wound roll if we're on objective we control. When to use the Warden's 4+ feel no pain can be a risk and reward. Use it too soon or trying to hold on to it to a later turn and the Wardens can get blasted right off the board. Use it at the right time and these Wardens will be heroes. Next up is our 2 Allarus Shield Captains with their 2 units of Allarus. Our first Shield Captain has that Ad Monte Mortis enhancement, and this makes that Shield Captain into a Primarch level threat. I prefer the Castelling Axe, adding +3 strength, 1 AP, and 1 damage, takes it up to 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 12, AP 2, damage 4. This enhancement makes the Allarus Shield Captain's Oromite and Adamantine ability worth taking a look at, since it does reduce all incoming damage down to 1, and this will make these Terminator Captains very hard to kill. I was and am still considering the Lone Operative Allarus Shield Captain. Superior Creation and Presidius, that Lone Operative enhancement, are both 25 points. But if we do take Superior Creation on one of our Shield Captains, the idea of this unit is to be a hard-hitting anvil, a possible 2 uses of Oromite and Adamantine to reduce all damage to 1 forward phase, and then it can stand back up on a 2+ with full wounds remaining. I did decide to attach a unit of 2 Allarus to both of these Shield Captains, and this will give them access to reroll the wound roll into vehicle, monster, and character units. The Shield Captain with Ad Monte Mortis, I like to call it the Emperor's Axe. Gilliman has the Emperor's Sword. This thing hits incredibly hard. It's the Emperor's Axe. Best unit in my list for taking out the toughest, scariest things in the enemy's army. I've killed Knights, Khitan, and Gorkanauts with the Shield Captain. Players are not ready for how hard this character can hit in melee. I want to use Golden Light to get this unit around the board, hunting the big bads of the opponent's list. The other unit, the Allarus Shield Captain with the Superior Creation, would be my first pick for a late game use of Unleash the Lions to break this unit up to do some other secondary actions. We could break up the other unit if we need to, but I like to keep that unit together to have that big damage dealing axe, rerolling its wounds into characters, vehicles, and monster units. Then we have Inquisitor Draxus with her unit of 4 Custodian Guard. Draxus attached to Custodian Guard is already one of our top units for killing infantry with shooting. Now with +1 to hit and +1 to the wound from against the all odds detachment rule, the unit becomes even more reliable into shooting infantry. It also gives the unit some threat into some tougher targets. All Draxus's ranged attacks are damage 2, along with the Custodian Guard's spears. That means every failed save is going to take 2 damage chunks out of the opponent's army. The Martial Kata army rule targets the unit if the unit has Martial Kata. Draxus does get Custodes Karate in the fight phase if they are attached to the Custodian Guard, since the Custodian Guard do have that Martial Kata ability. I have done some testing with this unit. Most of the time, this unit can crack a Rhino in the first volley of shots, which is great since we can use the second volley of shots to clean up any infantry units who pop out of that Rhino. I think I am going to add an Inquisitor to this list. The detachment rule should be able to buff the shooting of that unit through the roof when we do have another Inquisitor in our list. Then we have our 3 units of 4 Custodian Guard. These are my shooting units. Yes, I know, shooting Custodes is not normally a thing, but with damage 2 ranged weapons and +1 to the wound roll, we can punish low to medium toughness units or do decent chip damage to those toughness 12 units. Unit placement for shooting will be very important. If they are not outside of 6 inches of other friendly units, they will not have the +1 to hit and the +1 to the wound roll. If we're not on objective that we control, we will only be able to reroll wound rolls of 1. On the flip side, if we are on objective that we control and outside of 6 inches of other friendly units, we will get that +1 to the wound roll, and these units are very deadly. The trick is to pre-plan turn 1 or even up to turn 2 movement to get into good shooting positions. Another thing to note is the Guardian Spears and the Sentinel Blades have the assault ability, meaning they can advance and still shoot. I do have shields in some of these units. They only have a 12-inch range with their swords, but with an extra wound per model actually makes this a much harder unit to wipe off the board. Next up are 2 units of 2 Vertus Praetors. These are the units I'm not quite sure about, but they do fit into my game plan. They are a great wave 1 unit to put pressure onto the objectives. 18-inch movement with their auto advance 6 ability allows you to put the pressure on the enemy turn 1. I do have hurricane bolters on these units, 12 attacks if they are within the rapid fire range, which is 9 inches. Since they are an 18-inch weapon, you do have to be within half range to have access to the rapid fire 3. Add 1 to the wound roll, and all of a sudden those hurricane bolters are a real threat to enemy units. They're strength 4, AP 1, damage 2 with twin links. So with 12 of these, with +1 to the wound, re-rolling the wound roll, you can get some good damage through. The detachment rule for +1 to the wound will not help them when they charge something, since they do have the lance ability on their weapons, which gives them +1 to the wound roll when that unit has charged this turn. It will help them, however, if they are the ones being charged. So if they get charged, we will still have +1 to the wound roll, as long as they are outside of 6 inches of other friendly units. We can also drop some mortal wound bombs from these jet bikes. Quicksilver execution can now be used after a normal or advanced move. The Swift as the Eagle stratagem is a D6 normal move, meaning we could use this to drop some mortal wounds down if we fly over it during the D6 normal move. Remember, we don't need to fly over the entire unit, we just need to fly over one model of that enemy unit. Between the shooting and the melee with +1 to hit and wound, with a possible 4 mortal wounds per Vertus Praetor unit, we should be able to kill their 150 points of enemy models before they die. These become great trading units for this detachment. I may even find a way to fit even more of these into my list. Last up is our Psychona units. We do have a unit of 4 Prosecutors. The Prosecutors actually do have access to the detachment rule. It does make them a fair bit more deadly. These are not in the list for damage though. These are for scoring points, holding our home objective. I have this 1 Prosecutor unit to hold my objective if there is no indirect or 6-inch deep strike threat. It will allow me to free up one of my Custodian Guard units, not having it stand on my home objective all game. Swift as the Eagle, that D6 movement, can be used to move these after being shot. If we could deny the opponent scoring, then we would want to consider using this stratagem. Then finally, our 2 units of 4 Witchseekers. These Witchseekers are the key to my turn 1 and overall game plan. I use these either to screen out turn 1 charges or move block. What I really like them for is that 6-inch scout to get on objectives early and score early points. I'm trying to lean into the fact that we do have some sneaky good shooting in this list. The Witchseekers will allow me to grab objectives early, to draw the opponent out, to take them back, or lose the game on points. The Witchseekers are part of wave 1 of my game plan. They do get access to that +1 to the hit and wound roll. +1 to the hit won't matter since they do have torrent weapons, but +1 to the wound roll, that will really help. The Witchseekers have a D6 attack, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1, ignores cover flamer attack. Adding 1 to the wound roll will get these barbecuing light infantry units and threatening medium infantry units as well. Like the Prosecutors, Swift as the Eagle can be used to save this unit from more shooting, but on a low priority. Now, let's take a look at the game plan for this list. Now this game plan is subject to change, same as the list. I still have a few weeks of testing and tweaking before that RTT tournament. Right now, I would say that I am better with the Shield House or Talons or even the Solar Spearhead detachment. I have been playing some solo games to test out some things and learn the detachment. The goal is to have the rules and make sure to be outside of 6 inches come naturally to me when I'm playing. The game plan right now for this list is waves of Custodes. And what does that mean? We can't pile up on our enemies in this detachment. If we pile up on units, we do lose our +1 to the hit and +1 to the wound roll. +1 to the wound roll is one, if not the best damage buffs in all of 40k. If we're not actively trying to engage that detachment rule, we might as well play the Shield Host detachment. I want to send my units up in waves, but in a particular order. This way we can have that detachment rule bonus and keep the pressure up on the opponent as well. I have my list set up for 3 total waves of Custodes death. Wave 1 will consist of the Witchseekers and Vertus Praetors. These will push up the board and grab early objectives, get board control, and score some early secondary points. That 1 unit of Prosecutors will be used to hold our home objective as long as there isn't any immediate threat to that Prosecutor unit. Wave 2, this wave is the Allarus units and Trajann with his Wardens. I like to have my Emperor's Axe Allarus unit start in reserves. The bikes can move to be outside of 6 inches, much easier than other infantry units, and push further into my opponent's army. So if I need to, I can bring down that Allarus unit from reserves and use that to help pressure for our second wave. Wave 3, the last wave, will be the Custodian Guard. And this is my gun line, so that's why I want it to be wave 3, so I can keep on shooting and shooting, and then finally move up into melee range if I need to. This is the gun line, but it still hits very hard in melee. Since they are Custodian Guard, we will be re-rolling wounds of 1, and if we are on an objective we control, we will re-roll the entire wound roll. Custodian Guard in this detachment hit very hard, because anything under toughness 7 will be wounding that on 3s regularly. With +1 to the wound, that's wounding on 2s. Even when the Custodian Guard is not on objective we control, we re-roll the wound roll of 1. So if you're wounding on 2s, re-rolling 1s, they become very reliable in the combat phase. This whole wave game plan is to take advantage of the shooting, melee, and overall toughness of the list with the detachment rule to score high points and cut down the enemy. This is a rough game plan. We will go through a more in-depth game plan when we do finalize our list, and I'll make a video with my final list for the RTT. So that's my list, my unit breakdown, and my rough game plan. Here is the other list I've been looking at for the Lines of the Emperor, some tweaks I've made to this Lines of War list. We do still have our Warlord Trajann Wardens, our Shield Captains, our Allarus Shield Captains, but the battle line is a little bit different. We do have 2 units of 4 Custodian Guard with 3 Spears and 1 Sentinel Blade in each of those units, and then a big 5-man unit with 3 Spears and 2 Sentinel Blades. The big 5-man will join Trajann Wardens, while the 2 4-man units will join Inquisitor Draxus and a regular Inquisitor. With those Inquisitors attached, that will really amp up the damage of those Custodian Guard units. Our other data sheets are pretty much the same. We do actually have 3 units of 2 Vertus Praetors this time, our unit of Prosecutors, and our 2 units of 4 Witchseekers. The changes for this list is I've pulled out the Wardens to add in some more overall shooting firepower, just to take advantage of the fact that we want to shoot and use melee with this Lines of the Emperor detachment. So let's finish the video with some final thoughts. And I can see myself making more changes to this list as I test it with the practice games and on the channel battle reports. I really like this detachment. It does have its weaknesses. There's not a lot of defense stratagems or mortal wounds protection. It does have the most utility and tricks out of all 6 of our detachments though. That is something I like. It is going to take a bit to unlock its full power to truly see how it stacks up against the other detachments for competitive games. Fun factor though, this detachment is a blast. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40k content. And like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.